Sometimes it's hard to tell if a video game company's job is to innovate, storytell, and create great gameplay, or to just say the worst things at the worst times. Whether they're dismissing player concerns, justifying their shady business practices, or just straight up insulting their audiences, the corporate overlords that give us the games have a long history of saying crap that ages like milk. Hi folks, it's Falcon, and today on gameranx, 10 things game companies should have never said. Let's kick this one off with number 10. PlayStation is the best place to play. A quote Sony introduced as they were actively blocking crossplay, meaning like we're not going to let you play in other places. You'd think letting players game together regardless of platform, you'd be a no-brainer. There's certainly arguments for the idea that it diminishes competition. I would argue it actually does the opposite. It encourages people not to have to buy the other console in order to play with their friends. But you know, whatever. Back in 2018 though, when fans discovered PlayStation was actually blocking Fortnite crossplay, and that other folks were enjoying their precious Fortnite across the Xbox, the Switch, and PC, and all that crap. Xbox, Nintendo, and PC players, they're all playing together, having a grand old time. And Sony decided to wall off its users because I guess they could. They thought that it made people want to play PlayStation more. I would argue it makes people want to play PlayStation less. Like I said, I think that crossplay is actually a thing that encourages people to enjoy their current console more. But hey, that's just me and my thinking and my logic. Sony didn't exercise any of that. They were like, okay, well, I know the right fix for this one. A new slogan: that PlayStation's the best place to play. You see, we won't let people play in other places, and we'll tell them that makes us the best. Yeah, the backlash was immediate. Fans were absolutely furious by this. Developers also absolutely furious about this. You had people from the other console companies roasting them. Like, it looked so bad that Sony eventually just caved. At number 9, on-disc DLC. Specifically, Capcom on-disc DLC. On-disc DLC is one of the most infuriating practices in gaming. You buy a game, and it's not uncommon for DLC to exist. You buy more content for the game later, right? Well, if that extra content is already on the disc and has simply been paywalled, it's a really nice reminder that you don't actually own the game. Love the whole licensing thing that we've been over a few times. Oh yeah, just to remind everybody, that's not just for digital content. You don't own the games that are on discs or on your hard drive either. You own a license to play that stuff. It's just if you have it on a disc or on your hard drive, they can't take it from you. Same licensing situation one way or the other though. Anyways, Capcom decided to really proudly defend the on-disc DLC thing with this gem of a statement. Ahem. Which, what? What? Oh, so it's not locked content. It's just content that I already own that I can't use unless I pay you more. Totally different. Nothing like, it's not the same thing at all. Yeah, gamers didn't buy that for a second. See, the thing is, of course, this is legal. It actually makes perfect sense if you understand that the disc is literally no different than the digital copy, except for you have the data on a physical thing that they would have to show up at your house to take from you. If anything, this is actually a perfect demonstration of the fact that you've never had ownership of your games, which is infuriating, and they know it's infuriating. And they knew it was infuriating then because they felt like they had to justify it. Huge backlash, but that didn't stop other companies from doing the same thing, because why sell a whole game when you can sell pieces of it at a fractionally larger price and end up making more money overall? Moving on to number 8, dunking on backwards compatibility. Hey, remember how Xbox One had just a terrible launch? I mean, there were a number of reasons, of course. There's forcing the Kinect into the package. There was always on DRM. But one of my favorites was, of course, the man, the myth, the legend, Don Matrick coming out and saying, well, if you're backward compatible, then you're really backward. What is that? So this was the point in time where pretty much every gamer of any system loyalty, whether that be PlayStation, Nintendo, or Microsoft Xbox, everyone was pretty much begging for backward compatibility. And while the PlayStation 4 wasn't straightforwardly able to provide that in the wake of Microsoft not doing so, Sony did make the PlayStation Now service, which did give you a selection of older games to play on your PlayStation 4. If the thing they were contrasting themselves against was not, in fact, Microsoft spitting in people's faces for asking the question, Sony's solution would have looked like a cash grab. But instead, it looked like Sony was doing what X don't. I don't. This is a really hard joke to make without the word Nintendo in the sentence. Sony also had the advantage in that they were selling their games console as a games console, while Xbox One was going to be an entertainment device that focused on television, which, television, the thing that everyone was talking about in 2013. Fast forward a few years, and I'm not going to say to you that Microsoft's gotten their crap together. We just put out a video detailing how they haven't. But backwards compatibility is actually a big selling point for Xbox. Turns out tons of people actually love playing their old games. Who knew? Hint, literally everyone but Don Matrick. At number 7, the ads were meant to be that way by 2K Games. The future of gaming, where you pay $60 for a game and get bombarded with ads like it's free-to-play mobile trash. Back in 2020, back when people were captive in their homes, players booted up their full-priced game and were greeted with unskippable ads. Obviously, none of us were really super happy about being stuck in a position that we had no power to change, and making the game echo that wasn't super well received, as you might expect. And it's not like these unskippable ads were for in-game events or DLC or crap like that. These are just commercials, real-world TV commercials shoved into the pre-game loading screens. Because nothing hypes up a basketball match by a minute of talking about Oculus Quest 2. Naturally, that pissed everyone off. And 2K's response was probably worse than the ads. Their response was, as many are aware, in recent years, ads have been integrated into 2K TV segments. Yesterday's 2K TV ad placement impacted our players' experience in a way we didn't intend, as these ads are not meant to run as part of the pre-game introduction. These will be fixed in future episodes. Thanks for your continued feedback. What? That's some top tier corporate gaslighting right there. The ads were meant to be intrusive. You just are supposed to like it. Interesting approach, right? They knew that people weren't going to like it because they weren't there at launch. They waited until reviews for the game were out and then stealth dropped commercials into the game. Although people noticed. It was the worst Trojan horse anybody's ever attempted. Let's just nip it in the bud that the ads weren't meant to run as part of the pregame introduction. Then how was the code there to run it as part of the pregame introduction? Sorry, that's not how programming works, friends. I ain't a programmer, I don't know a lot, but I know that something has to be coded to happen, like playing a video. It doesn't just do that randomly. There has to be a spot to put a video in the code. Whatever though. At number 6, Dragon Age the Veilguard failed because it wasn't a live service. Yeah, the EA CEO really actually said that. We talked about this in another video, and I'll probably bring it up a million more times because it's amazing. Electronic Arts is one of the most innovative companies to have ever existed when it comes to missing the point entirely. Now, I want to try to give him a little credit for at least knowing the words live service are hated, because he did try to squirm around it. He said, that it didn't resonate with an audience that, quote, increasingly seeks shared world features and deeper engagement. Now, if you and I were being charitable or perhaps speaking between each other, as gamers, we might translate these words to simply mean multiplayer and more varied quests and narratives, that type of stuff. You have to understand that in the corporate world, that's not what those things mean. Shared world features means you gotta connect to the damn thing, and deeper engagement means means you gotta buy stuff. So ultimately what he was saying is it wasn't a live service cash grab, so that's why it didn't sell. Because those are doing so well right now in the gaming industry. Everybody loves them some live service games, and they don't receive massive backlash for simply existing. But hey, who am I to question the wisdom of a company that not only forced a beloved single-player developer to make Anthem, but also this game, Dragon Age the Veilguard, itself was originally going to be a live service game, and they decided not to do it that way because of the backlash that live service games, always get. Moving on to number 5, quadruple A games. Got Ubisoft to thank for this one, and they were actually talking about Skull and Bones. I mean, talk about a bony skull. Yeah, so these guys basically turned development hell into an Olympic sport and then awarded themselves a 4th A. I'll read you the quote. "You will see that Skull and Bones is a fully fledged game." Side note, not good if that's how you're selling it. It has all of the features you would expect in a game. No, he called it a fully fledged game. And then he said, it's a very big game, and we feel people will really see how vast and complete the game is. The game called it complete. It's a really full triple, and then he paused, as signified by a ... in all the articles which quoted him. He might as well have said the word nay. It's a really full, triple, nay, quadruple A game that will deliver in the long run. I don't feel like I need to say anything. Like, it's a full $70 game that they tacked another A on, and by another A, I mean microtransactions, premium currencies, battle passes, all the free-to-play stuff. That's what the 4th A is, I guess. Moving on to number 4, they're at 10, but they only like playing single-player game. Electronic Arts decided to jump on a trending meme with something going on back in 2022. It was the "they're a 10, but" meme, meaning somebody you are attracted to is absolute top-notch, most attractive type of person you could possibly expect to exist. Except there's one problem. That's the setup for the meme. EA's punchline, but they only like playing single-player games. Some of gameranx's most well-received videos are in some way about how single-player games are good. Whether it's directly about that or about how live service games are often not good. Can you imagine if we uploaded a video that was top 10 reasons single-player games should go away? Well, the reaction you are anticipating to that is the reaction that they got for tweeting they're a 10, but they only like playing single-player games. It was such a stupid tweet that former employees and current employees alike immediately got in on the dunking. Former Dragon Age designer Mike Laidlaw called it tone deaf. A former producer at Visceral Games, Zach Mumbach, guy who worked on the Dead Space series, he highlighted the irony of EA mocking single-player gamers while axing single-player projects. But like I said, current employees. Vince Zampella, head of the EA-owned Respawn Entertainment, just responded with a facepalm emoji. Respawn, the developers behind the 2 single-player hits, Jedi Fallen Order and Jedi Survivor, both of which generated a profit for EA rather than costing $120 million and only making $100 million like Anthem, a live service game. And that's not even talking about whatever they spent in marketing, which I assume really puts Anthem in the hole. I mean, it just exemplifies how stupid the people who run that company are. Moving on to number 3, it's charging developers per install. In September 2023, Unity, the game engine, unveiled a brilliant new strategy, the runtime fee. The plan? Charge developers a fee every time their game is installed. Yeah, you read that right. Every single install. Yeah, the backlash was immediate and fierce. Developers worldwide pointed out the myriad of ways this could be abused, or hell, just that it is abuse. I don't know about you, but I've installed games more than once. A lot, actually. I have games installed on my computer, on my Steam Deck, and on my laptop. That's 3 installations on a game that I own. Actually, several games that I own. Forget the fact that I have purchased those games. What if I pirated them? I pirated them, and I installed them. It told Unity that I installed them, and the developers had to pay for my pirated game. I mean, that just sucks. And when everybody pointed out how much that sucks, Unity responded with a series of confusing, quote-unquote, clarifications and half-hearted apologies that did not help. Fast forward 2 months, and surprise, surprise, CEO John Riccitiello retired. The company scrambled to reverse the policy, but the damage was done. Trust was shattered, and developers began migrating to other engines. I do think over time, things have gotten a little bit better without Riccitiello being there. Also, I don't know if I'm saying his name right, and I kind of don't care. Moving on to number 2, EA CEO Blake Jorgensen saying people don't like linear games as much today in 2017. Again, the company that shut down Visceral Games, the studio behind the beloved Dead Space series, very linear, and the company that forced BioWare to make Anthem. They were like, man, nobody likes those linear games. The following year, we got both God of War and the first of the new Spider-Man games. Both, semi-open games, but very linear. But we don't even need to go a year ahead. Like, Cuphead came out in 2017. Resident Evil 7 came out in 2017. Like every other year, a Call of Duty came out, and people loved the World War II campaign, and that was linear as shit. On top of that, these games cost less money to make because you're not making a bunch of traversal content. You're not filling out the game in every possible direction so that it doesn't break anytime somebody doesn't do the next thing. God, EA, I realize that this might be really hitting EA repeatedly, but man. And at number 1, the granddaddy of them all, when Ubisoft said gamers need to get comfortable not owning their games. This speaks to a problem that we, the gamers of yesteryear, should have known would be a problem all along. But back when the EULAs were telling you that you don't own the game on physical media, we weren't really thinking about it, because I doubt that Nintendo or Sega would ever show up at my door and demand that I give the cart back. And Lord knows I had blown enough of my bad pizza Oreo breath as a child into the pins of the carts. Why would they want it back anyhow? That was the era of my games are not in danger. It doesn't matter what the EULA says. But those of us who were actually paying attention and did actually get mad about it, we knew that we've never owned our games. We've owned a license to play them. Same goes for all your Disney movies, friends. If you have them on VHS or DVD or Blu-ray or any of that, you own a license to watch it. In my opinion, this is its own massive problem, but it creates a new problem when we move into the digital era. And for Ubisoft to say that we need to be comfortable not owning our games it's quite rich, because they have quite the history of retiring games. You see, if you don't own a game and the software itself is tied in through servers that you either download it from, or it uses always on DRM to register through, or it requires an account or whatever, you start getting into live service stuff. And this is why single player games should not contain that stuff. But in the digital world, this same licensing problem applies much worse, because they can shut the game off. You couldn't shut my Sega Genesis game off. You couldn't wave a magic wand in Tokyo and have Sonic suddenly stop working. Now you don't need a magic wand. You either shut your server off or you take it off Steam, and that's that. There was a bit of a twist of poetic justice in that California has passed a law requiring digital storefronts to clearly state that consumers are purchasing licenses, not the actual ownership of the games. But I'm going to go ahead and say that is many, many, many years too late, because that's completely normal. We've been doing that since the 80s. It could have been longer, I don't know. I haven't really been alive that long. On some level, it is a little rich that people are mad at Ubisoft for saying this. I mean, it is a callous and stupid thing to say. For subscription services to truly thrive, gamers need to get comfortable with the idea they don't own their games. Not something I would say if I were in the position of any of those people who do require me to give them money to maintain their businesses. But, I'm both mad at them and mad at the whole situation. And I always have been, and I will be until they do something about it. And by something, I don't just mean one state passing a law saying you're purchasing a license and not the actual ownership of the game. Not 50 states, for that matter. I would like that. I wouldn't be upset at that, but I'd really like them to address the fact that I don't own any of this crap that I've bought. That's a problem. What do you think? Leave us a comment. Let us know. If you like this video, click like. If you're not subscribed, now's a great time to do so. We upload brand new videos every day of the week. Best way to see them first is, of course, a subscription, so click subscribe. Don't forget to enable notifications, and as always, we thank you very much for watching this video. I'm Falcon. You can follow me on Twitter, Falcon Hero. We'll see you next time, right here on gameranx.